Hello, my name is Jordan Heap, and I'll be presenting my first project for the course CTI-140. I will be discussing alternatives to the Windows operating system and what I think is the optimal choice for an enterprise environment. What do we need? So in our example, we're looking at Taters Inc., and it has several machines and users spread out over different facilities. So we'll need something that is scalable and can manage in an environment you would typically use Windows Active Directory for. These users typically use a graphical interface on their desktops, so we'll need something that offers a nice desktop experience. Taters has a file server, an email server, and an application server currently deployed, so we need a solution that has an enterprise focus in mind, either by cloud option or server software. So let's talk about why we would want to look at a different operating system than Windows. So compared to Linux products, Microsoft is costly to implement and maintain. Some admins report spending over $12,000 for a single license. Windows encounters more update issues than Linux distributions, which makes a WSUS server crucial in that kind of environment. Some updates can destroy your OS, causing you to have to reset to factory to be able to use the machine again. I've seen this with Windows 11 on one of my Windows 10 machines. Since Windows has dominated the market for the past 30 years, they are targeted more often by cyber attacks. So yes, you can implement other security tools to protect your Windows machines, like firewalls or other networking tools, but since we're talking about OSs, I think bringing that up is pretty relevant. Now that we know why we might want to replace Windows as our OS, let's look at some of our options. There are several Linux distributions available since it is an open source OS. Up here at the top you can see some of the Linux distribution icons or logos. First you have Red Hat, then you have Google Chrome, and Debian and Slackware. The Debian flavor tends to be more user-oriented, and it's more popularly known as Ubuntu or Linux Mint. The Red Hat flavor seems to be more business-oriented, and most people know it as Fedora and CentOS. And the SLS/Slackware can go either way and has an open SUSE for users and SLES for enterprise. And then, of course, we can't forget about the Android flavor, which includes Chrome OS along with the various mobile OS types. As you can probably tell from the first slide, we'll be talking about SUSE or SUSE, but why SUSE Linux? When looking at the different Linux-based distributions to fill the shoes of a Windows setup, a few caught my eye. Red Hat Enterprise, which is also Fedora, Chrome OS Enterprise, and SUSE Linux Enterprise. Chrome seemed to be more cloud-based, and most of the deployments seem to use Chrome devices, so that wasn't a good fit for our existing infrastructure. Red Hat looked like a good fit, but the instructions said not to use Fedora, so that kind of eliminated the VM I had already downloaded and installed for that. Looking at SUSE's website, they seem to be the most enterprise-centric with the top-rated SAP support and many other server options. So talking about other server options, SUSE servers can be set up as NFS file servers, email servers, application servers, and many more, as well as integrate existing Windows Active Directory domains. It supports hybrid cloud IT infrastructure, The pricing and licensing for support isn't publicly listed, so I couldn't really nail down what their pricing was. But looking at some comparisons online between Windows Server and SUSE Enterprise Server, a lot of them were saying that it's much more cost effective than Windows. Some users report that they can run their system for free and only pay for the support. Customers include BMW, T-Mobile, Dell, HSBC, Intel, Bosch, and Office Depot. That's just some of them. They have many more customers. But on to the next slide. So here we can see some of the pros and cons that some of the users reported in some of the online reviews. So some of them said it's supported both by the parent company as well as SAP and other third-party companies, which is always good. Support is very good in the IT environment. They say that it's very stable and has consistent updates. It has great product support. We already talked about that. Runs smoothly on bare metal and virtual servers. Has more security features out of the box than Windows. So yeah, that's always good. Some of the cons they listed were that it needs licensing for its print server. It doesn't support Windows utilities directly, and doesn't have a web browser enabled application like Control Panel does for easy administration. And here are some of the free product download options that you can get off of SUSE's website. I think some of them you might have to get a license at a later date, but you can download all these for free. Some of the options you got is Enterprise Server. They have something called Rancher. They also have some Kubernetes products. But what I downloaded was the SUSE Linux Enterprise Desktop. Alright, so now we'll talk about my VM. I chose to go with the SUSE Linux Enterprise Desktop, as mentioned before. Its revision is 15 Service Pack 3, which was their latest release. The download and install went pretty smoothly. I chose the GNOME Desktop, also known as Wayland, which included Office Suite, Email Client, and File Manager. I added Break Timer as an add-on software which tells you when you should take a break if you're staring at a screen all day. So that's pretty good to have because you get lost in time when you're setting up Active Directory, for example. I also added Clam AV, which is a free antivirus specifically made for Linux. That's because every machine directly connected to the internet should have some type of antivirus to check for any malware or spyware or other malicious software that might harm your OS. I also added pCloud Drive, which is a file backup and sharing application similar to Dropbox or Google Docs or something like that. So in summary, there are a few enterprise-level Linux-based options. As mentioned previously, I found that Red Hat and Chrome OS Enterprise to be viable options. The one that stood out to me the most was SUSE Linux Enterprise, which has full SAP support. It offers a lot of the same features as Windows Enterprise solution, but with a much lower cost associated. If users can adapt to an OS change, switching to a Linux-based system could provide fiscal resources in other areas for all those business-minded people. And of course we have our citations. You have the Windows Server and Linux comparisons, and we got a lot of information off of the SUSE website itself, as well as some other reading materials. But this is it right here. Okay, so now we're in my SUSE Linux desktop VM. I had to change some display settings so that we could actually see what's going on here, because it was a 4K display, so it kind of shrunk everything down, so I had to blow it back up. But here under activities is where you get most of your applications. It's how you get to them. So over here. As you can see, we have Mozilla Firefox, an email server application. You got LibreOffice, your file directories, just a quick access to documents. Then you have this particular version of the desktop came with a bunch of extra applications, but normally when you get Linux, it's pretty bare and you just add on as you see fit. So just to prove that this works, we'll open up Mozilla Firefox. It's going to take a second because I didn't give it too much memory or processing power. But it will work. Hopefully. There we go. So we'll just go to google.com. Hey, so we're connected to the internet. Let's see. Let's go to Durham Tech just to prove that we can get to the internet from our virtual machine. It seems that we can. It's a little slow. But it's loading. Alright, so now we know we have internet connection through the host. We can move on to the next thing. So to get to your little dock, you have to hit this activities button up here. Probably the most common apps that just an average user would use is this email server here, your web browser. They may or may not, have the photos they need access to, and of course all your LibreOffice apps, and that came standard with this particular download of desktop. But I added this. This was a cool little app. It's more of a widget than an app, probably, but if you're sitting at a desk, going through emails or setting up domains or whatever it may be, you stare at a screen long enough, you're going to forget what time it is. So this kind of gives you a notification saying, hey, take a break, go outside, go walk around, whatever, and you can change when you want to be notified to take a break. I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see, another one was that Clam AV. So it's very, very basic. I mean, it's free, obviously, but you can do scans. You can scan a file or a directory. You can see what your quarantined items are. You can put things on a white or black list. Basic antivirus stuff. And the other thing we talked about was, let's see here. See, this one was tricky. Kind of didn't put it with the files. I mean, because it kind of isn't. It's kind of like a shared folder almost. Kind of like a OneDrive. The way that it works. Let's see if I can find it. It's in the file system, I believe. Yeah, pCloud. So we'll get that a second to load. There we go. Yeah, so yeah, I use my personal email to, because it's a trial thing. Well, I think you get 10 gigs free, which it shows here. But I think you can get up to 2 terabytes. But yeah, it's basically like OneDrive, Dropbox, other cloud backup slash sharing file services. So in here you can see what shared files you have and authorize different things. You can choose which directories or files you want to back up. And if you already have a drive folder, you can sync. So if you've added some stuff to that same folder on your local desktop, then you can sync that with your drive folder. So pretty cool. I mean, probably in the business setting, you're going to use the file sharing more than, I mean, yeah, you probably want to back up some of your work stuff as well. Yeah, we also have that LibreOffice, which is like, you know, Microsoft Office. So you got basically your Microsoft Word, your Excel spreadsheet, PowerPoint. I'm not sure what the equivalent to draw a drawing is, but maybe Paint. Don't know what this one is either. Oh, it's got a database program as well, so probably be using that a decent amount in a business setting as well. See anything else we didn't cover here? Oh, another thing cool about SUSE is that other Linux distributions don't have is this YAST feature, which is kind of like control panel, or gives you a lot of configuration options. So apparently I need a password to get in here, or administrative rights. So yeah, so here's like all your configuration type stuff for your local computer. So you can even set up server type stuff here, like LDAP, you know, create a proxy server, FTP server, manage your VPNs, Samba, which is a file server, some other things. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Alright. And for the desktop, I was trying to get something minimal, but I couldn't find. I wanted to put the Tato's, some type of Tato's logo here, but I suck at, you know, video editing and graphic design, so I couldn't get quite there with that, but so I just chose a very basic desktop that is the same for most users, and you know, you can customize it by adding some type of logo here. Because I think the one it came with, I think that was a decent background as well. For corporate settings, you know, you want to be as minimalistic as possible. Thought it was in here. Settings. Oh wait, got a better way to get to it. Yeah, I think this is one of their defaults here, and this was the one that it came with. It's not too bad. It's pretty corporate friendly. But yeah, just for a plain, you know, something that you can change the different, you know, let's say you want to put marketing on there, It's a nice blank, and it's also got that highlight in the background. So yeah, it's got that highlight in the background. So if you want to say finance and marketing, or sales, or warehouse, you could further design this into whatever you need. But anyway, that's it. That's my virtual machine. And just to prove again, see it says VMware Player up here. I'll even minimize that. You can see my normal desktop. And I think that's all, folks. Thanks for watching, and hope I wasn't too terribly boring. All right. Thank you. Have a good night.